Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by England and Nottingham University women's field lacrosse player Izzy Brand. Welcome to the podcast, Izzy, and how is everything going?
Yeah, it's all good. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's really exciting to be a part of this.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on as well. And I wanted to sort of start off this podcast talking about the beginning of your career and sort of working all the way up to where you are today. So, where are you from? And talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
So I live in London, in the UK, and I went to North London Collegiate School. Um, Growing up, I was always involved in sport. I was a really sporty kid, but I first picked up a lacrosse stick when I was 11 years old, just during one of our games lessons. And I absolutely fell in love with the sport. So I tried out for the school team and I made it onto like our first team there. And then I joined a local club called New Stars. And the coaching there really helped me, develop my skills and play more competitively. And now, 10 years later, I still play for New Stars in their club league. And yeah, it's just amazing to see how far I've come since then.
Now, who were some of your lacrosse role models growing up in England?
Growing up, I really looked up to players like Claire Farham, Tors Anderson, Emma Oakley. I watched them compete on the international stage and tried to pick up on elements of their game that made them, so strong and such unique players. And I guess it's a bit surreal to now be playing alongside them as teammates.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, let's sort of start off talking about Nottingham University and that experience that you went through. So, in England, is there a recruiting process for when an athlete joins a university? And if so, how did you end up going to Nottingham University? And if not, how did you start playing lacrosse there?
So in England, we don't have like a formal recruitment process like in the States, but we do have something called athlete tracking. So this is like where you apply to university and you can get flagged as an athlete. And sometimes, like in my case, you then get a reduced grade offer for university. So obviously it makes it easier to get into that university of choice. So when I was making my decision 3 years ago, I had numerous conversations with the lacrosse coach at Nottingham called Mike Armstrong, who was really, really helpful throughout the whole process. And then I ended up receiving a 3-year scholarship to study at Nottingham, which again was a significant factor in my decision. Um, Nottingham was also known for its like strong support of student athletes and its high regard for sports. So I knew that I would be in an environment that would support both my academic and like athletic goals.
Now, talk about your experience with Nottingham and what has that been like for yourself, both on and off the field?
I would say that going to University of Nottingham was by far the best 3 years of my life. So I competed for the first team throughout my time there, and I had the chance to play alongside some incredible players, many of whom are also on my England team currently. And we had the opportunity to travel to various universities and compete across the UK in our Bucks League. And we also had a very impressive streak with only one loss in 3 years throughout my time there, which was awesome. And I guess obviously as students come and go and they complete their degrees, we had a very different team throughout my 3 years, but I made loads of friends along the way. And one thing I love the most about Knots is that they have an amazing international recruitment system. So every year we had American lacrosse players come and compete for us alongside studying their postgraduate like degrees. So we've had loads of players previously from Boston University. So they were really, really great additions to the squad, and it's nice to stay in touch with them and share those memories from their time here. Um, and I guess off the field, I studied sport and exercise science, which added another like level of enjoyment to my time at Nottingham, and it's an area that I'm really passionate about. So I met some amazing friends, and they all played sports. So I'd go and watch them in their matches. I'd go and watch tennis matches and squash matches, and they'd come and support me on game days. So it was a really nice, I guess, community to be a part of.
Now, like you mentioned, you only lost one game during your time with Nottingham. So, what was like your favorite memory with Nottingham, looking back on it now?
Well, I guess two standout memories from my time at Notts, and they both revolve around winning our national championship title. The first win was in 2022, and that was after my first year. And then the second win was in 2023 after my second year. And both times were just, a culmination of the year's work, like hard work, sorry, years worth of hard work and commitment and from the entire team, and they were perfect highlights of my time at Nottingham.
So, when you look back on your time with Nottingham as well, from your perspective, what has been the biggest thing you've improved on the most throughout your time there, I guess?
Mm. Um, I would say as a player, definitely I've seen a significant improvement in my confidence. Um, Being in an environment where you're fresh into a team, you're playing with players who are more experienced than you, it helped me really gain a deeper understanding of who I am as a player, what my strengths are, and what my role is on the pitch, as opposed to being in a school environment. And I think that I became a lot more confident in myself and my abilities, and that was crucial as I have grown stronger and become more skilled.
Now, obviously, like you mentioned, you did exercise science and sport
Mm,
during your time with Nottingham. So, how have you learned to balance both academics and lacrosse at such a high level during your time at university?
mm. Um, Being highly organized and balancing my time has been crucial for as long as I can remember. At the level that I'm at the moment, I've got a lot of support from behind the scenes. With the England squad, I benefit from support from coaches, S&C coaches, and physios who help me keep on top of my training and, maximize my improvements outside of our squad weekends. And similarly at Nottingham, I've had help from coaches, physios, strength and conditioning coaches, performance lifestyle coaches, and on the academic side, my personal tutors. Um, so everyone involved in this process is really understanding of the demands placed on student athletes, and they recognize the need to balance high level competition but also focusing on our education. So everything is very organized and based around what works best for the athlete, and I've found out what's worked best for me. I sit down with my coaches at the beginning of the academic year, and we create like a schedule that includes all of my training sessions, my gym work, my speed, my conditioning, and that helps me stay on top of where I need to be and when, and making sure that I'm making the most of all of my commitments. And now that I've actually graduated from Nottingham, I'm doing a master's at Loughborough University. So I'm going to be taking everything that I've been doing for the past 3 years and continuing to balance my degree and lacrosse commitments there as well.
Now, when I was doing research for this interview, I also saw that
Mm,
you also got to play with this team called Swift. I was
yes.
just curious, describe what that lacrosse team is like. Like, who are some of the players you get to play with, who coaches you, and who are some of the teams that you get to play against? Because it looked like a lot of fun based on what I was looking at on the website.
Yeah, no, it is a lot of fun. So every year I play in a tournament called the Fly, and this is the UK's only six-a-side national lacrosse league, and it was established in 2021. So this tournament basically brings together elite lacrosse players and coaches from across the UK and beyond, and it features the six-a-side format that will be used in the Olympic Games. So it's like a fantastic platform, for showcasing both the men's and women's lacrosse because they have a men's league as well. So there are four teams in this league, and they're called Hustle, Rise, Swift, and Forge. So to compete, you basically complete an online application, and then your name is placed in a player draft. And then the coaches, which are selected, will then select players based on their skills and positions. And then this sort of aims to create, a really well balanced team with a mix of experience, and that allows a really, really high level competition throughout the tournament. So the first 2 years I played for Team Hustle, and then last year I was selected for Team Swift, and I was coached by Karina Bates and Steve McDermott, and they were incredible. Our captains were some of my England teammates, and they were Tors Anderson and Emily Gray. But I also played alongside some, super talented Welsh players, Laura Warren and Maeve McKennie, as well as Miho Sakurai from the Japanese national team. And that's like only to name a few. So we had a massive, massive wealth of players there, and competing against friends and teammates in such a high level competition is always exciting, and it's a really great way to showcase lacrosse and on the depth of talent that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get to play with people from different countries, like you mentioned. So that's
Yeah,
cool to get to learn about those countries as well, I imagine, when you get to know your teammates a little bit more as well.
yeah, exactly.
Now, how have those experiences with those teams sort of helped prepare you for Team England?
Yeah, so obviously competing in both that tens and sixes format has been hugely beneficial for my development as a player. Each format obviously, brings its own demands and challenges, and has allowed me to work on different aspects of my game. But both formats require me to work on my speed, strength, endurance, agility, quick decision making. Because lacrosse as a whole demands rapid transitions, both physically and mentally. Um, it's just changed your mindset massively, and it's really helped me to improve my ability to adapt quickly and perform under pressure. So competing on so many different stages has given me a very well-rounded skill set, and has allowed me to handle loads of different game scenarios and team dynamics. And yeah, so I think that those experiences have been crucial in preparing me for the demands of Team England, and integrating loads of different aspects into my game, and different playing styles.
Now, talk about what it's like representing your country and just sort of the pride you feel when you get to do that, and just the tournaments you've gotten to participate in so far with Team England.
Yeah, absolutely. So I haven't actually received my official England cap yet. Um, that's something that I am really working towards this year, but I have had the privilege of competing internationally for my country. So my senior England debut came in 2022 when I was 19, and I played at the Sixers Nations Cup in Germany. And then that same year, I also played in the World Cup Festival in Maryland. And then recently, I went on tour with Team England to the USA. We went to the Carolinas, where we played against top Division One schools. So we played Duke, UNC, and Clemson, just to name a few. So yeah, this year I'm working towards hopefully competing in our own internationals tournament. We've also got the Senior World Cup next year, and fingers crossed Olympic Games in 2028.
Nice, nice. Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
excited for lacrosse to be in the Olympics. I feel like it's long overdue.
yeah, agreed.
Now, what does it mean for you to represent your country? It's awesome. I assume you feel a lot of pride whenever you get to put that England jersey on, in these tournaments that you mentioned.
Mm. It's just a feeling that you really can't replicate anywhere else. It's like, on game day, you wake up and I put on my England shirt. It's a very powerful moment. I'd say it's a reminder of all of the years of commitment, sacrifices, and hard work that have led me to that point. And I see it as an incredible opportunity to show my passion for the sport, as well as, my abilities and what I've worked so hard for. And as well as making my coaches, my teammates, my family, and my friends proud of me. Um, and I also see it as a chance to serve as a role model for younger athletes. Just as I've said I was inspired by the more experienced players in my team. I hope to encourage other people to find their own passion and chase their dreams. And I think that representing my country is an incredible mix of, I guess I'd say, pride and responsibility. And it's a huge motivator to always give 100% every time I step on the pitch.
What's been your favorite memory of Team England so far?
Hmm. I think my favorite memory with Team England was probably celebrating my 21st birthday whilst on tour in the USA. It was last September, and obviously, 21 is a big milestone, but being surrounded by my team made it really, really memorable. They made me feel really special, and yeah, we had an amazing day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And
Yeah,
officially legal to drink alcohol in the US as well, too.
exactly.
So let's move on to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you
Yeah.
some non-lacrosse questions to get to know you more off the field. So first one is, what has been the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Ooh, that's interesting. The most interesting thing I have read or seen this week. I haven't really been on my phone that much this week, actually. I've been in pre-season a lot. Um, Something that I've seen was, ooh, I actually don't know. I really haven't seen anything
Yeah.
of note this week.
Yeah. I can't, I
I
was
don't
trying to
really
think of
know.
anything of my from myself, just so if I could add anything. I can't think of anything at the top of my head. Probably just like NHL training camp stuff. That was sort of interesting to see,
Oh,
like
cool.
all that kind of stuff, and just a lot of contracts sort of being settled before training camp begins. I know it like officially begins today, but like yesterday was like captain's practices, I think, for a lot of
Oh,
teams.
cool.
So
Yeah.
a lot of media availability. So it's just cool seeing, knowing that the hockey season is going to be starting soon. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
excited about that.
But it's much bigger out in the US, I think, hockey
Oh
than it
yeah,
is over
and
here.
It's probably bigger in Canada actually than it is in the US, but
Yeah.
basically North America, we I love hockey. It's one of my favorite sports, so it's fun to
Oh,
watch
really?
that. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Hopefully,
Nice.
England can get a t can continue to improve. I know they've
Mm.
recently won some tournament and are moving up a level in ice hockey. So hopefully they continue that because it would be pretty cool to have more countries participate in the Olympics,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah, for
Winter
sure.
Olympics. Now, which teammate on the English team has the best style off the field?
Best style. I I would say I would say Liv Wimpenny. Yeah, she's got good style, really cool like Instagram feed. So yeah, I'd say Wimps.
Now, obviously, when you've been with Team England, you've gotten to travel to some cool places. Where's one
Yeah.
place you would love to travel to one day?
I would love to go to India. India's high on my bucket list. I just want to go there, experience the culture and, learn about their traditions and history. I think that would be really cool.
I think for me, just West Coast, United States. I just think there's a lot of cool national parks that I'd want to explore out there.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Now, so obviously, I can't really answer this, but I'll give sort of an answer from my perspective. But what is one question that you have for Americans in general?
Ooh, is there like an essential, American experience or tradition or food that someone who's visiting the States should try out to really understand what it's like to be American?
Uh, I think just thinking on the top of my head, probably like fast food, some fast food restaurants like Chick-fil-A. I feel like that's very American, and I don't obviously go there all the time just because it's not that healthy for you, but every once in a while it's a nice treat to have. So, and it's very American, I would imagine. Or
Does
like
In-N-Out
barbecue.
really deserve the hype that it's given,
What'd you say?
would
I
you say?
apologize.
I said, does In-N-Out really deserve the hype that it's given?
So I've actually never been to In-N-Out, so I can't answer that question for you. I think that's more of a West Coast joint. Um,
Right.
I think in certain places in America, they don't have they don't
Mm.
have In-N-Out, so I can't answer that question. I feel like you would have to ask someone else about that one,
Have to
unfortunately.
try it myself then.
Exactly, exactly. I think my question for people who live in England is
Mm.
one is So in America, like English stuff is like there's like a culture about it. Like you can get a Brit box and watch English TV shows. You can obviously go to English restaurants. Is there a similar thing in England for American stuff, like an American TV show package that you could watch, American restaurants? Like I'm just curious about that.
What, sorry, so in the States, is this something that we would want to try?
Like would yeah, exactly. Like I know there's like English style pubs in the US that's supposed to replicate like a bar in England, or like there's
Yeah.
like a you can get like a BritBox DVD that has like all these different TV shows from England that you can watch. I was just curious if there's anything like that in England, but for American things.
Yeah, well, I mean, in London we have these massive stores which are all filled with like American candy, I guess you guys call it. And it's just all stuff that you couldn't get in the UK. So I guess it's like something like that where we've got actual like American sweet stores, which is always funny to walk past because there's nothing really in there that you can buy just in a local like
Yeah,
corner shop.
that's awesome.
But yeah, yeah,
And then the other question I had was, so I saw that there's two different types of flags for England. There's England flag and then there's a Great Britain flag. What's the difference between the two? Like one's like the white one with the red cross, and then the other one's
yeah.
like the
So
blue
the
and red one. I'm just curious, like, is there a difference between the two flags? Like, what's the difference between Great Britain, I guess, and England? I think
yeah, well,
it's a little
so
bit confusing for me.
of course. So, well, England is the white flag with the red cross, and that is like solely just England. Whereas the Great Britain flag, like the UK, is England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and that's what makes up the blue flag with the white and the red. So
Okay.
it's like England is just that one area, whereas the UK is all of those areas.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Have you ever
That's
been to
pretty
the
cool.
UK?
I have never been to the UK, no. I'd love
Have
to
you
go
not?
one day.
Yeah, you should definitely.
Um, Next question I have for you is sort of similar, I guess, to what you just asked me, but what's your favorite
Mm.
part about England for someone who's never been there before?
I think obviously visiting the city, the landmarks like Buckingham Palace and, Big Ben, London Eye. I do love sometimes being a tourist and going and exploring those places. But for me, I'd say the countryside is my favorite place. My family and I sometimes over like the Christmas break, we like to rent a cottage out there and it's just such a refreshing break from being in the city, the busy city life that we're used to. So we just take the dogs and go on walks and it's really, really nice.
That's awesome. I would love to, like, I think I would need to visit Liverpool as well because I'm a big fan of the Beatles. That's like
Liverpool. Yeah.
I feel like that's where I'd want to go, or London as well. But yeah, and then also see like a soccer game there too, because I heard they're
Yeah.
like really popular. Who's like your favorite soccer team that you watch?
Arsenal. My family's team is Arsenal, but you should definitely try and watch a game. They're huge out here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think it's cool that there's like 15 or like five different tournaments that you guys play during a season for soccer. Like you have the
Yeah,
Premier League season, then the Champions League, then there's like an FA Cup. I think that's kind of crazy
absolutely.
how there's so many different tournaments in one year.
Well, I guess it's almost like your NFL league, isn't
Yeah, that's true. But like there's not like a separate
it?
tournament for
Yeah, I
NFL games
guess.
outside of like just the regular season. So I don't know, I just think
Mm,
that's pretty cool. I will say though, like, and this is very American of me to say, I feel like you need a playoffs for the Premier League.
yeah.
I feel like that would make it more exciting. I don't understand the team that finished top of the standings just wins the trophy. I feel like it makes it less dramatic and when the season comes to an end, especially if a team's like
Yeah.
10 or 15 points ahead of everyone else.
You guys are just much more competitive than us, though, aren't you?
Maybe. I feel like you guys are just as competitive as we are sometimes, you know. I feel like
Mm.
you should give yourself some more credit.
All right, we'll do that.
And then last question is if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Lunch. Anyone in the world? I I would say Sir David Attenborough, 100%. I just want to. I want to hear his voice in real life. I feel like it's very soothing. He's an
Yeah.
absolute legend. So yeah, I just think he's really interesting. I'd love to hear about his career, and I just think we'd have a really great lunch. So if you can, make that happen.
I unfortunately cannot make that happen, but if I could, I would definitely try.
Yeah, who would you have lunch with?
So normally I say Tom Brady just because of the
Okay,
adversity he
interesting.
went through, being a sixth round draft pick, being
Mm,
like the seventh string starter when he was in college, and sort of being eventually becoming the greatest NFL player of all time. I just
mm.
think that's a
Yeah,
pretty awesome story and definitely very inspirational.
for sure.
Um, but nor for this actually for this interview, I decided to like sort of put a caveat for this question. I had to pick someone who is from England just to make it
Oh yeah,
more interesting. So I picked David Beckham, just because
cool.
one, he seems like a very interesting guy, and he also could help me with my fashion as well, which I think desperately needs improvement on. So those are the people who I would have lunch with.
My mum actually recently met David Beckham at Wimbledon, which was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Is he a nice
yeah.
guy, off the screen?
Yeah, she said he was a really, really, really nice guy. Got a little picture with him, so I was jealous.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, getting back to some lacrosse questions now, the first one I want to ask you
Mm.
was what should be done to help continue to grow women's lacrosse in England?
Probably quite a lot. I think that firstly, social media is key. Building a really strong presence on platforms like, specifically Instagram, I think can massively enhance our visibility and attract sponsors. And that's something that us as Team England are really working to do at the moment. We're doing initiatives like Train with Team England. We've got one coming up in October, and it's basically just an event to help us engage with younger athletes and share our skills and inspire them to pursue their passion for lacrosse. So that's what I think that we can do in terms of social media. I think also maintaining and expanding competitions like the fly. We've only got one six-a-side league in the UK, and it not only showcases the sport and the talent that we've got in the sport, but it also draws in large audiences, and that helps us to elevate the profile of women's lacrosse in the UK. And the tournament has been covered on YouTube previously, but we want to get it on TVs. We want to get people from around the world watching it. So I think that showcasing the high level of competition and seeing top players play, in action can inspire more people to get involved. And I guess the last thing is, things like this. Like I'm really, really grateful to be, you know, part of this podcast today. And I think it's really valuable for sharing, our own stories as a Team England athlete and to help promote women's lacrosse. And I think that it will really generate a lot of interest and support from the sport. So yeah, thank you so much for having me as a part of this today.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate the kind words, Izzy. Just one more question I want to ask you, though, is do you have any shout outs you want to give, and who from your team should we have on the podcast next? And if there's anything you want to promote, feel free to promote it if you don't want to do any shout outs.
Shout outs, I just, would like to say a huge thank you to my coaches, my physios, my S&C coaches, my teammates from all the teams I've played on, my family and my friends. Their support has been invaluable throughout my journey. For your next guest, I would say definitely reach out to my captain, Claire Farham. She's an incredible player. She's represented England on the international stage for many years, and she's got a wealth of experience and insights that I'm sure she would be happy to share with you.
We'll definitely have to reach out and see what she has to say. But Izzy, I
Yeah,
just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. It was so much fun getting the chance to learn more about you and England. And yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation today.
thank you so much. Yeah, it's been really, really amazing.